Me, please.
Good morning and welcome to First Sip by Draft for Upside. I'm Brewermark. With me is Chris Emerick.
Yo, it wouldn't be a show if I wasn't not looking at the camera doing something when we started, right? Like I'm on my phone, I'm looking at my other monitor, I'm just doing something. I'm doing something right now. Hang on 1 second. No. Can you give me one of the seltzers? This is a beer. I'm getting a drink, guys. I'm getting a drink.
That's fine. That's what we do on this show. Of course, I'm on caffeine still, so.
Sí. Gracias. It's kind of a Spanish household a little bit.
So, you got up early for a little League of Legends. Did you get a nap in? Are you ready for football now?
I've got my jerseys in the background. I've got the FlyQuest Worlds jersey up top. I've got their I think it's the spring playoff jersey in the bottom down there. We got to see the one of the favorites to win Worlds, the number one, pretty much the consensus number one in the LPL, go down 2-0. Yeah, it just sucks that it happened on a 2-game slate, and then there was like a 20-way tie for first. Not that was me, but thankfully, even despite that, I didn't come out poorly, and it would have been kind of bad had OMG been able to complete the double dog upset and beat EDG, but alas, they were unable to do so. So I've been drinking some vibes. Danger gave us a heck of a lot of shit for drinking Bud Light product on the show. I still contend that it's a superior seltzer to just about anything that he's ever drank. And but just for him, I bought a 12-pack of hard seltzer. It's $18.99, 4.5 alcohol. 3 flavors, locally made, but they're 16 ounces, so I am getting a better value out of it. So even though they're slightly not as good, I'm getting more for my money. But I was getting some actual beers along with it.
Okay.
Plus, look, I knew it was going to be a long day today, so I had to get the seltzers. I even bought something that I don't typically buy, just in general. I bought a 4-pack of their lager that they were offering. I almost went with the Pilsner, but with the lager, it's decent. I mean, it's a lager. That's the thing. Like when you talk about Bud Light, you talk about Miller Lite, you're talking about lagers and Pilsners, and that's why they're not the most tasty of beverages,
but they're light and refreshing.
Yeah, they're sessionable. They're for people that are waking up at 3 a.m. That have to watch, a couple hours of League of Legends and then some football for 7 hours as well.
Yeah. So let's get into this NFL slate. Wildcard weekend. It's going to be a fun one. We have 3 games today, 3 games tomorrow. DraftKings and FanDuel both have some 6-game contests you can get into, but the real money is doing the 3-game slates. So let me pull up. I built all my lineups yesterday, and I'm planning on just tweaking a few today. And
how responsible of you. I have built absolutely nothing so far. I mean, partially because I was doing the League of Legends and everything, so I built those. There's nothing like going to bed early and getting just a fantastic sleep. Or a lack thereof, because you have $600-700 in lineups out there that you've reserved but have not filled out. So you set like 7 alarms to make sure that you wake up. The responsible thing would be to just set those lineups the day before, especially with rosters being out and whatnot.
Yeah, well, I will admit, for the 6-game contest, I've only reserved. I have not filled those out yet, but I filled out all my rosters for today's 3 games. Yeah, it was easy because I'm an NHL PGA guy, so I'm trying to learn NBA. So I was laying in bed watching the Lakers game last night, because I played a lot of Lakers last night, and I did okay. I doubled my money. It was only $20, but I'm happy. And so I was able to build all my lineups last night.
Okay. Yeah. No, I didn't do anything constructive. I somehow got into a additional LCS $250 League of Legends draft. So now I've officially doubled the entry fees for League of Legends that I did for actual like fantasy football. Like I have twice as much in League of Legends.
All right. Let's roll into this. Why don't we go position by position? You want to do that, or you want to go game by game?
It doesn't matter. I mean, I think I don't think my thoughts are going to change that dramatically over what we talked about the other day. I think we can just go position by position. It's probably the better way to do this, and just roll through it. Talk about some of these ownerships. This isn't going to be a super long show. It's 3 games. So.
Yeah, it's 3 games. And if you're listening to us live, go ahead and post your questions in the comment section of whatever social media service you're watching us on, and we will do our best to answer them. Okay, so let's start with quarterbacks. We're looking at, we have Josh Allen, Phillip Rivers. I haven't heard who's playing for LA. Have we heard any news on that?
Well, I mean, just based on what I'm looking at here, it looks like it's
Goff.
Probably going to be Goff. Let me try and just confirm that.
I think Sean McVay is being all vague about everything.
Yeah, I don't know if it matters all that much. I mean, I guess I'd prefer if it was Goff. I'd play him a little bit. It depends. I've got on Roto Grinders, I have they're listing Jared Goff, and then on Fantasy Labs, I think I have Wolford still is the guy that's getting the projection. So it's looks like it's questionable.
Yeah. Okay. And then you have Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, and then Ron Rivera said he's going to be rotating quarterbacks today, which whatever. So where you think you're going to land on these quarterbacks? Obviously, we play multiple lineups, but who do you think will be your main couple of quarterbacks?
I mean, it's going to be the big 3. It's going to be Allen, Brady, and Wilson. Those are the 3 guys that I think have make the most sense in terms of what you're looking for, and they're carrying the most ownership. I really don't want any part of that Washington quarterback situation, and I probably wouldn't have if there was any clarity and one of them was playing the entire game. But when you look at the ownership, it looks like it's going to be Allen 40%, Brady 21%, and then Russell Wilson 15%. I mean, truthfully, if I could get a couple shares of Goff at sub 10% ownership, that might be interesting. But I'm probably going to put a bulk of my lineups with maybe a Tom Brady or a Russell Wilson. I love Josh Allen, and I'm certainly going to have probably slightly under what the field is on him, just because that's just a high number, and I want to create some leverage. So, if you're looking at Josh Allen, if you love him, play him. Just play him over 40%. You need to either you need to find some way to differentiate yourself. And if you're making multiple lineups, one way of differentiating yourself is to just go over the field and just go kind of above 40%, go 60, 70, 80%, just have 1 or 2 hedge lineups, or, it's go a little bit under. And, if you're making 20 lineups, for example, in the 20 entry 3 max, make 6 or 7 Josh Allen lineups, and then, go heavy on Brady. I don't think that the projection for Brady's ceiling is all that different than Josh Allen's ceiling. I mean, I think they're very similar, and as is Russell Wilson's. How frequently they achieve that ceiling is a whole other story. I think Josh Allen gets that ceiling a lot more often than Tom Brady or Russell Wilson does. Yeah. But in the scenario that they're getting to that ceiling, look, these other guys have similar to that of Josh Allen. And Josh Allen has a very real floor, probably a little bit higher than these other guys. But, a Josh Allen floor game and a Tom Brady ceiling game put together, Josh Allen's not shipping anything, in your lineup.
Yeah, and I ended up on those same three are my main quarterbacks. I have stacks for every game, but I'm leaning heavily on Josh Allen and Tom Brady, and I have several Russ lineups. And same thing. It's how do you differentiate 3-game slates? If we kind of go back and look at the few we've had this season, you don't necessarily have to do a run back on a game stack. That's been successful. We saw I believe it was a Buffalo 5-player stack that one small 2-game or 3-game slate. So those are ways you can differentiate. I'm not doing many run backs on this slate.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't. It doesn't allow for it, I guess. I mean, there are a couple games here. There are clear favorites, and then there's just not a tremendous amount of offensive run backs that you're going to necessarily want on, let's say, for example, Washington. When you look at the running back position, it's fairly spread out. I don't think that there's a lot of spots that you can find a clear edge here. I mean, Cam Akers is the clear number one. But not by much. I mean, Chris Carson, I guess he's probably one of the places that I'll take a stand. If he's going to be towards the top of this ownership quartet, I guess, I mean, with Akers, Carson, Taylor, and Jones being the top 4, all 35 to 40, Carson's the guy that doesn't fit there for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I heard about that ownership yesterday, and for me, it's a little mind-boggling. I don't have any love for Carson in this slate.
I suppose the thought is that if they are the team that's going to win, he should have some type of role in that offense. But, it is kind of crazy that game being the lowest scoring game is going to have the 2 highest owned running backs. I mean, for me, the one that's the most attractive given everything, and even more so in this scenario here is Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones coming in at 36% ownership versus Jonathan Taylor, Chris Carson's, and Cam Akers all being above that. Being on a team that's expected to win big. I think that Ronald Jones is a place that I'm going to look. The other guy that's I guess sign of low owned is going to be Antonio Gibson, and I'm certainly going to have shares of Zach Moss. Do I expect big things? Nah. Do I hope that they happen? Absolutely.
Yeah, I found myself I'm way over the field on Jonathan Taylor. I really like the spot he's in. I like the way he's going. I don't trust Phillip Rivers. I really think this is going to be, if Indy is successful, it's going to be on the back of Jonathan Taylor in my mind. And then I have a mix of Akers and Rojo. I like the Jones call.
And I mean, but to touch on that, I mean, you don't have to, if you're making multiple lineups, you don't have to think that Indianapolis wins. You just have to think that Indianapolis can win. That's what you're doing. And I think that's the biggest mistake people make, especially in NFL, because a lot of people fancy themselves experts. I don't, believe it or not. I don't. I mean, look at my bet picks for the year. I have absolutely no idea what's happening half the time. But you have to embrace that part of it. It's so different than LOL this morning. I was actually a little upset with myself that I didn't take any flyer. Well, I had some Sunning shares, but I didn't have as many of them as I maybe wanted to. I wasn't bold enough, and it's not that you expect them to win. It's that you want to, if they do win, be able to profit in the best way possible. And rostering Jonathan Taylor is that way. And one of the things that I think that you can do with that Jonathan Taylor in a logical game is, put some Josh Allen in there and put some Indianapolis defense. Like, look, it's a small slate, so all of these things are going to be interconnected. I think that like, how does Indianapolis win? Indianapolis wins by Jonathan Taylor having a big game.
Yep.
If Jonathan Taylor has a big game and they're in front, Josh Allen, while he has not shown it for the most part this year, is probably going to turn the ball over once or twice. If he turns the ball over once or twice, that's 2 opportunities or 1 opportunity for Indianapolis to score on defense, on top of any chance and probability that they have to do it anyway on special teams. And so these things are all interconnected. And for that scenario to happen, if Indianapolis wins, what does that game look like? How do you build your lineup? And none of those extra parts are going to be super high owned. And that's the other thing, is if Josh Allen is your quarterback in most of your builds, you're probably not putting the Indianapolis defense. And if they pick him off and they score a touchdown, first of all, it sucks because it's like a 1:00 game and you're just dead for the rest of the day. So, I mean, you might as well build your lineups that way.
Yeah, and I don't these small slates like this. I don't think unless you think a defense is just going to totally dominate, shut a team out. I don't see where the normal correlations on the defense has to be priority in a game, in a slate like this.
Sure, and look, if you're building one lineup, maybe you don't want to do that. But if you're building one lineup, maybe you don't build the Indianapolis defense. But I still think Jonathan Taylor with Josh Allen is a way that you want to go. I mean, all things aside, there's not a lot of guys that have the raw point per total projection that Jonathan Taylor does. I mean, you look at Cam Akers and Chris Carson. The problem I have with Chris Carson is it's just one of those guys that I don't think that the projection makes sense. That you're looking at the way that he scored points throughout the year. But I mean, look, he's projected for 14 points and he's scored 10, 10, 8, 18, 20, 13, 5, 19, 25, 10, 19. I don't know. That just it seems like the math is wrong. It's not wrong there. It's just it hasn't adjusted for the proper role in this team, that they are running the ball. They're just doing so inefficiently. I'd love to see Seattle get back to this just free and loose pass game.
Yeah, I'm really hoping they get back there too. I actually have several lineups in where I'm just gut feeling they're going to get back to it.
Sure.
And so that's a good segue into wide receivers. I think wide receivers, you can bring up the ownership for me, but I think wide receivers is where we have the most players that we can play and the most decisions to make. I haven't heard if Evans is going to play, but man, looking at that injury, I don't see how he can. And if he does, I don't see how he's going to move more than 5 yards. But so you have Godwin, you have Antonio Brown, you have John Brown, you have Stephon Diggs, you have T.Y. Hilton, who came on at the end of the year. You have all the Rams receivers, and then you have A.J. Brown, or I'm sorry, you have Metcalf and Lockett. There's just a large number of receivers that all should do fairly well. And so, I mean, where did you wind up? How do you see them fitting in?
Well, let's take a look here and just take a look and see. Let's see something here. Let's go here.
I found myself probably way over the field on John Brown because he's just so cheap. And it doesn't look like Beasley's going to play. So
that's disappointing. For our seasonal, I feel like my draft was terrible. But yeah, I think Stephon Diggs is carrying that ownership that he should. We talked about it, that I was a little bit higher on Tyler Lockett than DK Metcalf, especially given the fact that he was going to be more expensive. And I thought that was going to, go along with a ownership that was higher for Metcalf. And I'm absolutely right. I think the numbers are a little bit closer than I thought they would be. But, I'm looking at these wide receivers, and I think there's some clear spots. Tyler Lockett, like you said, John Brown. I think Gabe Davis is a guy that's going to have an interesting role, especially if Cole Beasley's out. I think you can play Isaiah McKenzie and Gabe Davis pretty frequently in those lineups. Somebody is going to have to play the slot. Guess what? Cole Beasley's not there. They need a slot receiver.
Well, ESPN just reported that Beasley is going to play.
Wow. Breaking news, dude.
Yep.
That is crazy. Okay. Well, it's not disappointing. I'm still playing Gabe Davis. You know, I might even play a little bit of Cole Beasley. It's just to get some of these lower owned guys. Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, a little Terry McLaurin. You know, these are guys that are way under owned in comparison to their peers, even Tyler Lockett. You get into that T.Y. Hilton being as highly owned as DK Metcalf, and that's tough. So I'd rather have a Zach Pascal. I'd rather have a Michael Pittman, who have very similar roles in the offense and have, quite frankly, much different projections, apparently. Okay, all right.
Where's Lockett coming in?
21% versus 27%.
So a little less, yeah. I'm more on Lockett, you know, like you are. McLaurin is one that I don't have any of them. I honestly don't have. I think I have one single lineup with a Washington player, and that is a lineup where I squeezed McKissick in. I don't think I'm completely fading Washington today.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean, the other thing is, let's see. The other thing that I think is interesting is that Antonio Brown at 6'1" is slated to be 18% owned, whereas Chris Godwin at 7,000 is slated to be 30% owned.
Yeah, and that makes me super happy because I am mostly Antonio Brown. I loved his price point. I loved the way he was playing towards the end of the season. You could tell Brady was looking for him. I loved it. So I love that his ownership's so low. He's in almost all my lineups, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I thought Cooper Kupp was supposed to play. I thought I saw that somewhere.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that he wasn't.
Yeah, I just don't see him on the ownership projections. Yeah, he is active, so he should play. That's not a problem.
Yep, he's active. It's Goff is the one I don't know, and I don't think we're going to know before game time.
Oh, and Mike Evans. That was the other one that I was interested in. I think Mike Evans is going to play, but I don't think he should. I mean, I don't know what capacity.
I honestly don't care. I look at that injury and the reports out of practice, and I have no interest in Mike Evans. And if it shoots me in the foot, fine. I'm going to play the odds that he's basically going to be a decoy.
I'll probably have a show.
Yeah, I mean, these small slates, as we discussed early on, you got to take some stances somewhere and make yourself different from other people. So there's one of mine. There's one of my lines in the sand. Okay. Really quick look here. I have a little bit of Godwin. I have a lot of Lockett. I'm going to have to rethink John Brown a little bit with Beasley in. And a lot of Antonio Brown is where I ended up. I have a lot of Diggs where I have I have Diggs matched up with Josh Allen in most of my Josh Allen lineups, and in a couple of lineups where I have like a Phillip Rivers lineup where I was able to squeeze Diggs in. So yeah. Any other thoughts on the wide receivers?
No, I mean, I think the other strategy that I might take with building these lineups is kind of differentiating my 3 gamers and my 6 gamers to keep me alive in the 6 game versus the 3 game, being just that much different. Like it just sucks, looking at those lineups over the course of 2 days. That's why I don't play PGA. I played two PGA lineups at one point yesterday. I thought I was awesome because I have 100% exposure to Justin Crocrack. Because the small amount of the show that I listened to, Danger was just all about him. So I have Kokrak and Kevin Na. Little did I know that like nobody else had golfed when he was at like -8 yesterday and vying for the lead. Now I'm in like last place, and every year I play this stupid Century tournament. Every year I lose. It's just atrocious.
It's a tough one because it's all about who is partying the hardest.
Yeah. It's apparently Danger.
All right, tight ends. So I found tight ends now.
Thank God Danger's not on the show. The reason, folks, that he's not on the show is he's traveling to one of the worst states in the world for, there's a couple cool things about Ohio. Cedar Point is one. He's not going to Cedar Point right now. First of all, pandemic. Second of all, January. But it's his birthday tomorrow. He's leaving his 30s and going into his 40s, as I recall correctly. And so he's going to like the Brewdog Hotel, which is pretty cool. I've seen some pictures. Seems like it'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, you get a beer tap in your room.
I truly do hope that he puts together some video coverage of what he's doing after he's intoxicated and does some tipsy picks for us. Just smash.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Maybe Katie can come together and they can build some lineups together or something, and maybe it'll be better than what he does. But he loves Logan Thomas. I think you and I, at least as of earlier this week, were all out. And in fact, I know that you're all out based on the fact that you said you have no Washington players. Logan Thomas actually plays for Washington, would be considered a Washington player. So I assume that he is in that group for you.
Yep, I am completely out on him. Just I don't like him against Tampa's defense, and I don't like him at that price.
No, I mean, if everybody else was priced around there, it makes some sense. I mean, I don't think I'm going to be as just fully faded as you, but I love Dawson Knox and Rob Gronkowski significantly more. How I'm willing to take stabs at whoever is going to be playing for Indianapolis.
Yeah, I ended up 90% Gronk. He fit my stacks at that price. I really like the way he's playing right now. The fact that Brady's actually throwing deep to him now instead of the little 5-yard outs. I've heard a lot of chatter, and it makes sense that he's finally in game shape. Right? It took him the whole season, but he's there.
Sure.
So I find myself way over the field on Gronk. I love the play, even if he doesn't score a touchdown. He's getting 5 or 6 catches, and a couple of them are deep. So I'm confident I can at least get 2x, 3x out of him.
I guess the way that you think as you're building the lineup, it was a thought that was, or not thought, it's a process that was coined many years ago when I got into DFS by, I can't even remember the guy's name, but he used, I don't know his name. I know, good segment there. But it's called like a thought ladder, and basically you start thinking about like different things and like, hey, if this happens, then this should happen. And it's more an exercise that works in like NBA and basketball. Like, look, if this guy goes out, who's going to go in? And one of my biggest wins early in my career was Alec Burks went for 60 points off the bench at 3K, 0 ownership. And it was like, look, if this guy is out, that means this guy moves into the starting lineup, but who is now the backup? And a lot of people thought it was X player. I thought it was Alec Burks, and Alec Burks was in fact the guy that came in and played, and he had one of the best games of his career on November 30th. Which will forever be known as Alec Burks night. And he actually, the year after, had a good game too, for a different team. It's kind of unrelated, but it's that thought ladder. So in this scenario here, if you think Mike Evans, one of their primary red zone targets and one of the guys that scores a lot of touchdowns for them, is going to be out, those are going to go somewhere else. And you can easily think that they're funneled over to Rob Gronkowski as opposed to a guy like Godwin or a guy like Antonio Brown. And certainly you can have them because that's all going to be filtered to everybody. But that's the rationale. That's the reasoning. That's how you can make yourself feel good.
It does make me feel very good.
Awesome. Great.
Any other tight ends?
Not on this 3-game slate. I think most of my tight end exposure for the 6-game slate is going to be on tomorrow's.
Yeah,
like an Eric Ebron or something like that.
Right. Okay, so really quick, defenses. We've been pretty good on defenses this year.
Whether we have or not, we have just continually said that we have, and that is a very telling thing in this country. You say something enough, people will believe it.
Yeah.
We've been great on tight ends and defenses. And either wide receivers or running backs. Usually nail one or the other. It's just the
never both though.
And all the quarterbacks are fine. So we screw up in one area. That's it. Yeah. Defenses. I think Tampa Bay is an interesting one. I think Washington at a low ownership is interesting, as is Indianapolis. Both of these teams have been really bad. But look, when you're looking at a 3-game defense, you're not actually looking for a defense that's going to shut the other team down necessarily. You're looking for a team that's going to be able to create turnovers and as a result score off of those turnovers, because that's really what's going to break the slate. I think all of these defenses have that ability. So irregardless of who you're playing outside of that team or how your staff looks, I don't think that your defense needs to correlate in any way whatsoever. And in some cases, you can play a defense against a quarterback.
Yeah, I completely agree with that assessment. They don't need to correlate. You are looking for turnovers. And where I ended up was Tampa against Washington. You have Alex Smith hurt. You're talking about Ron Rivera was talking about rotating quarterbacks. That's never been successful. And if there is a game where a defense can shut another team down, I think it's Washington, Tampa. The other one is Seattle. They're one of the cheapest defenses in this slate, and we're either going to get Wolford or we're going to get an injured Jared Goff. So I feel like that's a good position where they might get a turnover.
Sure, and on the other side of things, I think the Rams are a fantastic defense that has been, stellar all year and is going to probably feel like they need to raise their level here. And I just think you can play any of these defenses. And what sucks is you could have a perfect lineup and you're just going to. I'm just going to lose money on the defense. I can already feel it. I feel it.
All right. Well, why don't we take just a few minutes and give me your thoughts on the 6-game slate? Just some game theory on how you're approaching this. I personally have not really gone into it in depth yet. I'm concentrating mostly on the 2-3-game slates.
I think one of the ways that you can so there's two things that I think I'm going to look at is I'm going to try and fade today's games entirely almost and just play the 3 games tomorrow in my 6-game slates. I think I'm going to have some Bill exposure, but outside of the Bills, I guess I'm just not super interested in the teams that are playing today. It's good that today is the drinking games or the drinking day for me, because these games just don't look like they're going to be as exciting. And very well, they may be the better of the batch, but I'm going to heavily focus on that Baltimore-Tennessee game and the Buffalo Bills, and then that late game too. I think that there's this belief that the Pittsburgh and Cleveland teams have good defenses, but a lot of the metrics would tell you otherwise. And part of that is that Pittsburgh has lost so many pieces there. But those are the games that I think I'm going to kind of focus on. And, again, it's just such a weird slate because it's playoff football. It's cold in a lot of these places. A lot of these teams have already played themselves once, in some cases 2 times. The pricing is weird. The offenses are not centralized. And even if the offenses were centralized, like the Buffalo Bills, you get a 70% owned Stephon Diggs. But that is a great place to get away from. Like, as much as we are sitting here and saying that Stephon Diggs is a must play, getting away from Stephon Diggs is probably one of the easiest ways to get leverage if he fails.
Yeah. As we've been saying over and over, you have to differentiate in order to win these big GPPs today or over the 2 days.
If you're doing 20 lineups to differentiate yourself, you can have 8 lineups with Stephon Diggs, and you are different than the field because you are way under ownership on him, and that's okay.
Yeah. All right. Awesome.
I'm going to grab this beer. I want to show you this. I want to show you this box here.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. While he's grabbing that, you're watching us live. First Sip by Draft for Upside, and we're at fantasyfootballblueprint.com. We'll be back tomorrow morning at around 11 a.m. to cover the 3-game slate for Sunday. Oh, that's a pretty box. So that box is pretty.
Yeah. So it's like a little spaceship.
Yeah.
So it's got little flaps down here too. It's kind of weird. So the description of this is quite interesting. I'll pull this up for you. I think you're going to find it interesting. It is. I don't know where to look it up. Here we go. It is a barrel-aged imperial stout conditioned on, get this, cookies and cream space ice cream sandwiches.
Space ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know what that means.
I don't either. I'm trying to think what that means. Is that like a brand, or they flew them up into space and they came back down?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a taste of warm melted milk chocolate bar coupled with a pillowy vanilla flavor, like dipping a vanilla cookie into a hot mug of cocoa.
Wow, they're very specific in that description.
Yeah.
All right, well, you have to text me and tell me how it is.
Yeah, I mean, if it's good, maybe I'll go buy the other one, which is a condition on Neapolitan space ice cream sandwiches.
I got to look up these space ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah. Space ice cream sandwich. Here it is. Yeah, I mean, they're the ones that you can have in space, I guess.
Yeah. Interesting. So it's like Tang. They go up in the shuttles.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, why don't we wrap this up, and we'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. to cover tomorrow's 3-game slate.
We have a really cool comment on Twitch. I don't know if you want to bring it up.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm just ignoring that.
I don't know if people want to become famous and buy followers, but we have an avenue to do it.
All right. Good luck, and I will talk to you later.